You know, when someone asks me to describe what the Peace Love Moto podcast is all about, I simply say that it's about the peace of mind that all of us seek and some of us find from the seat of a motorcycle. Well, today, you'll hear a slightly different approach for reaching that same goal. Brett and Melissa Wilson are extraordinary people. Yes, they too seek that peace of mind, but they seem to find it from the saddle attached to a horse. It's simply amazing to learn what motorcyclists and horseback riders have in common. I know that you're really going to enjoy this part one of a two-part conversation with the hosts of Mountain Zen Den Podcast, Brett and Melissa Wilson. Stay tuned. Recorded in beautiful Loveland, Colorado. Welcome to Peace Love Moto, the podcast for motorcyclists seeking that peaceful, easy feeling as we cruise through this life together. Are you ready? Let's go. I am so excited today, especially excited today, to bring in an old friend and a brand new friend, Brett and Melissa Wilson, the hosts of Mountain Zen Den. And Brett and I had this connection from way back, but it's just an absolute pleasure to have you with me today. And thanks so much for being on the Peace Love Moto podcast.
Ron, thank you. It's a pleasure and it's an honor to be here with you, my friend. It's been a long time since we've seen each other, and now to be here with Melissa and for you guys to get to meet is a real
pleasure. I got to meet.
I've been so looking forward to this. There's I don't know where to start exactly, but let's start at the beginning for you and I, Brett. Would you mind describing to the audience how you and I met? It's kind of a little odd, right?
We both have very similar passion, and that's nature, mountains, now Jeeps, and tour guiding. And we met a couple of years ago. How many years has it been since we met?
2 or 3. Yeah.
2 or 3 years. It feels like a lot longer, just because as soon as we met, it was, it's like their eyes met across the room, and it's like, there's somebody alive right here. And we connected. I think it was in the Green Jeep office of Green Jeep Tours in Estes Park here in Colorado. And we both just loved what we do. Did you see any moose today? How are the elk today? What, any bears? What, and sharing that kind of a love, and not just that, but for the passengers and the guests, and the gift and the joy. What a gift it is to be able to be a tour guide and not only experience it for yourself, but to get out there and share it with other people and point out things that maybe they didn't see and watch their faces. It's like you relive it every time for the first time when you see it through their eyes. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I remember right when we met during that chaotic time between tours, right? We met in the office, and then we talked around that time, maybe after that tour. And I think I asked you about how many tours have you done? And I think at that time you told me around 300. And I thought to myself, wow, 300. I think I'd done 100 at the time. But so fast forward to now, I think I'm over 300 right now, roughly.
I bet you are.
I used to keep a spreadsheet. Don't do that anymore. But yeah, I think I'm about up there with you. Got another one this Saturday morning. They called me and said,
awesome.
This Saturday morning. So I'll do that. But that is our connection. And then again, to the listening audience, just to let you know, just for the folks that are listening right now, I'm actually looking at Brett and Melissa right now, and they're looking at me. So we're just like feeling like we're in the same room, and just this is just a neat meeting, I guess you might say. Melissa, tell us, what do you do? And now I've heard you on your husband's podcast, and we'll talk about that too, but tell us what you do professionally.
So I'm a first grade teacher in Berthoud.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do.
She gives.
That's a tiny blip of what I do.
Yeah. She gives kids the experience of their life of starting out with the right foot. I think that's her passion. Her passion, what we're going to talk about today, but also she does really enjoy. A lot of people, when they hear that you're a first grade teacher, what do they say?
I don't know what it is.
That I hear you say, they'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry." Or
oh, that's true. They usually apologize or not apologize, but oh my gosh, I could never do that. Like that, you must have so much patience. Oh yes, I do.
And for her, it's a joy. And
yeah, I do. I really love it. I think this is my 11th or 12th year teaching first grade. So I'm so happy I finally landed somewhere where I feel really at home, because I just love those 6 and 7-year-olds. They're so precious.
Even as a little girl, she had her teddy bears.
Yes, I always wanted to teach. I taught so many teddy bears and Barbie dolls and my poor animals, my cats, my dogs. And boy, they get in trouble sometimes.
She'd make them go out in the timeout room.
Oh yeah, we had lots of fun. So yeah, I love my job, and it's so close to where we live. It's just, it feels like home away from home.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
Let me explain to the listening audience why we're together. Because I think we have we have lots of critical things in common. Mm-hmm. But one thing that's a little unique, and I think we have in common, is that I and a lot of my listeners have a passion for motorcycling. I have used the expression with this podcast, it's this peace of mind that we seek, and sometimes we find from the seat of a motorcycle. But you find it from another seat, a different kind of seat. Would you mind describing that?
Well,
I'm going to show you a seat real quick here. Can you see that?
I can. That is a saddle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We didn't do that on purpose, just because we were going to be talking to you. That happens to sit in this room. Why is it sitting in here in the?
We like it because it looks cool.
Yeah. And it's not a motorcycle saddle. That is a.
And it's not a motorcycle saddle.
No. Right. Yeah. Horses are our unpredictable motorcycles.
Yes. And I will finalize later what I will call this episode. But my current thought is views from the saddle, because I think we have so much in common with that. For me, and so many of our listeners, the motorcycle is a transport into nature. When we go out on a hot day, we feel hot. When it's a cold day, we feel cold. When it's a wonderful day, we feel wonderful. But honestly, I think we feel wonderful in all the weather, because we're being transported in some way out into nature. That is another thing that we certainly have in common there. Would you agree? Is it a transport in a special way to you?
It's a spiritual experience for me. It takes me to another place. It helps me be present and mindful, and just, I have no other thoughts than what I'm doing, and my senses come alive, and the feel of the power underneath me of a living creature that's just so magnificent to me. Just, I don't know. It's just magical. That's how it is for me.
Yeah, Melissa said she comes alive. We come alive when. Yeah. It's like, how many times when we get out on the trail or just out riding the horse, we say, now don't you really just feel like yourself now? You actually feel like this is your best
self. I feel like it's who I truly am at my core. Like, this is just me, and I don't ever want to get off.
Oh,
it's true.
That's beautiful.
I love the word you chose, Ron. You are such a poet and good storyteller. Transport, because that's what happens when you get on I think of Michael J. Fox in the Back to the Future, and he's transported back in time. When we get on a horse, it's kind of like that. It takes you to a whole other place. And so many times we'll be out on the trail too. And it doesn't matter what happened that day, what the problems were, finances, health, anything else. If we're on the horse and we're out in nature, we're transported to that place. And probably 9.5 out of 10 times I'll say, this is my new favorite trail. No matter where we go, I'll say, this is the best day ever, don't I? Then we always look at each other, and we're just, all of a sudden, you're a brand new person in a brand new day with fresh possibilities. That's how it feels when we're riding that 1,000-pound animal under us.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And as you're talking, I'm thinking of these commonalities, these parallels between the relatively big motorcycles that many of us ride, and certainly the big animals that you're riding. One parallel I'm thinking of right now, and I think I made a comment about this, maybe this was one of my subtopics in a previous episode of the podcast, but I talked about the importance of maintenance, that you've got to take care of the bike. is something, most of us spent a good deal of money and have quite an investment in. It's something we've got to take care of. And then the parallel with that maybe was we got to take care of ourselves too. Yeah. But thinking about that, so this past weekend took some time to ride out with my brother-in-law. We rode out to Moab from here in Loveland, Colorado, and ended up rode a lot of back roads and ended up doing a lot of dirt road rides, and it was just fabulous. We covered about 950 miles round trip, I guess. But the thing is, and I'm thinking of care and maintenance. I know very well I had to take really good care of that bike because there were some places out near Moab where help was nowhere around. In fact, I think there was a sign along the side of one of the roads that was a bit intimidating. It said something about you need to be self-reliant out here.
Good.
Maybe is there a commonality then too with you certainly have to care for your horses. And I'm sure you do it out of love anyway, but to be able to safely be transported.
Part of that when you were talking about being in places where there's not a lot of people or even in precarious situations, part of what I was thinking when you were talking about maintenance is just even training your horse and making sure they're okay. And we go on some pretty hairy trails that are, on the edge of a mountain and really rocky and lots of obstacles to navigate. You don't just take a young, untrained horse up on a place like that. So part of that maintenance is making sure you're putting in the time and energy to, really,
work them out, give them a good workout. We look for places we call it butt kicker hill. They need lots of strength in their hindquarters.
Well, yeah, and I was thinking more mentally, but yes, absolutely physically, you have to make sure physically they're maintained so that they can do stuff like that, but also mentally making sure they're in the right, that you're constantly keeping them up in a place where they feel confident, where they feel, able to do those things with a good steady mind where they're not going to freak out and throw you off the mountain. I mean, because we've gone on some really hairy rides, but it's so fun because if you trust your horse, and most of the times we trust our horses, but yeah.
Well, people say they're like babies with guns. They're innocent, but you got to always be careful in watching. I love what Melissa was just now saying. We kind of do take that for granted. Even more than first grade teaching. Melissa eats, breathes, drinks, and sleeps horses and horsemanship and horse relation. And so she's constantly reading or taking classes or online learning more things about how to have this relationship, not just...
And develop a horse.
Yes,
develop their mind, so that is a huge part of their maintenance in my mind if you want to have a happy, safe ride. And then, of course, keeping their body fit and keeping them healthy so that you can, I like to ride fast too. I've done 6, 7, 8 endurance rides where you're, going 25 miles. Yeah, you're going 25 miles at a trot. I mean, you can do 50 milers and 75 and 100 milers, but I only did the 25s. But your horse needs to be in really good shape. And so when we even go out on the trails, I like to go fast. I like to trot. I like to canter. That's part of that, probably that same exhilaration you feel when you ride your motorcycle,
Yeah, exactly.
You have a lazy old unfit horse and do that.
Or a motorcycle that isn't
right.
good.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, we have to push the limits. I can't help it that there's 3 cars ahead of me and it's 55 right now.
That's right.
In order to safely pass them quickly, I do need to get it to about 105. So I'll probably edit that.
That's okay.
Or maybe I won't. But that's absolutely right. I mean, again, it's at least for me, it's these investments too. And
but you're always riding with a helmet. You're riding with a helmet all the time.
Full gear.
Just as we are.
There is a way to be responsible and also have that thrill of adrenaline and thrill of something, of just a little bit of danger, responsible danger. Because the parallel that we're talking about is the power beneath us on the horse, the power beneath you on a motorcycle. With power comes a lot of responsibility, and that's just something.
It certainly does, and it's something you do.
Yeah.
I jokingly talk about going fast every once in a while, but absolutely you have to be careful. Would I do that in the evening when the wildlife are out? No.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes,
right.
Yeah. You know when and when
bad
not
road
to.
conditions or whatever. Yeah,
Oh.
it's
Certainly.
interesting because it's so much power and exhilaration, but one's tiny thing can separate you from serious injury or even death. So,
It's that. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say
go ahead.
but it's that little element of danger that does make it. I mean, this world is not a safe place. None of us are getting off alive, and so you have to know how to, be safe, but still live on the edge enough that you're alive. You're feeling alive, and you're pushing yourself to new heights. And horses do that for us quite a bit, especially new ones that we don't know.
Isn't it? Would you?
It is.
Would you refer to
that's
it
a great way to say it.
Yeah.
We were gifted pretty much a Mustang not too long ago, a year and a half ago or so, and we just recently re-rescued him back to his rescue herd where he's in a forever good spot. It was kind of sad, kind of hard. Melissa really worked hard on him. You want to tell a little bit about your experience with him as a dangerous element, but also something you're working with?
Oh yeah, talk about seeing a horse's real, authentic, wild behavior and just all kinds of stuff that's so different than when you work with a domesticated horse. It was an amazing experience that I always wanted to have. It was a challenge. I grew from it. I learned from it. I was developed from it. But I mean, I developed myself and in the process of developing him. But it was, in the end, it was like, yeah, this is, unless I want to dump a lot more money into him, this is as far as I can go. And it's time to let him go. But
it was hard because we loved him. He had a really sweet spirit. He really did. He didn't seem like a wild horse until you were training him, and you could realize Melissa we both have a very dear friend who trains people and horses, and she worked with him for us for a little while and said, yeah, this is not going to be easy.
It's not the safest horse for you guys right now, but
safe. Yeah.
Was it a foster care situation? Is that what you?
Was it a what?
Like a foster care type of thing for this?
No. I mean, we
bought him.
He was given. Yeah. I mean, he was given to us he was given to us. We donated some money, but yeah, but it takes, unless you are really highly trained or highly qualified trainer, you can only go so far, and then you need to, pay for help and stuff. So it was just one of those things but boy, to see that raw nature of an animal like that, but it was also really cool how willing they can be and how kind and how, just
sensitive. He was very sensitive, beautiful,
and really, and how fast they can learn. It's pretty neat to work with something like that. So that was a whole different experience.
But like wolves are to dogs, Mustangs can be to horses as well.
I hadn't thought about that.
Different. Yeah, it's in their gene. Different. It's just different, and not that they can't be good riding.
No, and some really can, but there's
we aren't the cowboy way where you get on, you throw a saddle on, and you make them do it.
Hang on for dear life. That's not what we do.
No, that's not our joy. But anyway, it was a good experience, good learning experience, and again, something that I'm glad we did, even though we didn't know what the heck we were doing. It was just fun.
But we knew when it was time to
well, that's good.
Move on. We got hurt.
Speaking of getting hurt, this is where I was going to go next with this. Before we started recording, we were just kind of reminiscing about the injury that I had to my hand. My listeners know about that, where I hurt my hand in an accident here at home. Wasn't motorcycle related at all. But I had to be off the motorcycle for 4 months because of two surgeries, physical therapy and all that stuff. I was going through withdrawals like crazy. Now, it was still late winter, early spring when that happened, but lo and behold, there were beautiful days. I so wanted to get out. So what I did instead is multiple times, crazy me, I went out to the garage and I would pat the tank. I literally did this. I'm a nut. I would pat the tank of my motorcycle and I would say, thank you for the fun and the joy you brought me, and I'll be back with you as soon as I can. And I was literally doing that. And then when I could finally ride again, it was like this reunion. I'm back, and on my podcast, I literally borrowed the song Back in the Saddle Again from Gene Autry.
Oh my God.
Do you?
But I love your gratitude. I love the gratitude you showed even a machine, and you showed your bike and just, you were there. There was a connection. I love that. That's beautiful.
It's an unlike working with a horse. It's inanimate object. Am I pronouncing that right? Inanimate object. And I know it's just steel and rubber and full of gas and oil.
Sure.
But there is just something about it, though, that I have, I've been transported to places that you could go in a car, but on the bike, especially on many trips by myself, it's just been me and the bike out in wherever. The edge of Alaska, rode up there, across British Columbia and all that stuff, all by myself. And it was great. And, so it was like this gratitude I feel toward the bike, where I'll just go, I feel that. Thank you for that. Do you do the same for horses? I mean, do you feel that same way of hello, old pal type of thing?
For sure we do that, but I have to say, I connect with you on the gratitude for the machine too, because I do that with our blue pickup truck, which pulls horse trailers and does all sorts of things, that takes us camping and on long road trips and up and down the mountain to Estes back. I will say we named it. It's Baloo. Cheyenne was the one before, but we got this and we named it. It sounds crazy, but I get that. And at the same time, I'm thanking God for the gift, because it's been a very, very good ride, and it's taking good care of us. So I think there's something really important in that gratitude, Ron, whether it's a living animal or a piece of machinery, but you're appreciating it. I love that.
But I certainly hear what you're saying, because that last summer I actually came off that Mustang and couldn't hardly walk very well for a couple of months.
Crutches.
I was on crutches. It was really bad. And so, but it's that same thing where it's like, oh, I can't ride. It's summertime. I have riding to do. I have a lot of trails I want to go see on my other horse, my good horse, my solid guy. But even just going out, even if was on crutches, just going out and brushing them and smelling their breath and just being in the presence of like, I'm so grateful, even though I can't do all these things I want to do right now. I'm just so grateful for all I've been able to do and what I know I'll be able to do in the future. And just like you said, Pat, you kind of pat your bike, but just kind of be with that thing that brings you so much joy. And it's almost good enough. I mean, it's not quite, but it's that appreciation that it's like, wow, now not that you ever take it for granted, but you just realize how much you miss it and how much you love it.
Did you hear that? When we pause, we realize just how much we love it. It's about gratitude. Horseback riders and motorcycle riders alike, we have a lot to be grateful for. What joy riding gives us. This is where we'll pause this interview with Brett and Melissa for this episode, but return with us next time when we continue to learn how, if we're lucky, we find that peace of mind from the saddle. Thank you for joining me. I wish you peace. I wish you love.